It was a typical Tuesday evening in my cozy little home, the kind of evening where the sun lazily dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the living room. I had settled into my favorite armchair, a well-worn piece of furniture that had seen better days but was still the perfect spot for unwinding after a long day. The television flickered softly in the background, a comforting hum of sitcom laughter and dramatic plot twists. I was just about to dive into a book when a sudden knock at the door jolted me from my reverie.
Who could that be?
I muttered to myself, glancing at the clock. It was a bit late for unexpected visitors. I set my book down and padded over to the door, curiosity piqued. As I opened it, I was greeted by a sight that made me blink in disbelief. Standing there, with a big backpack slung over his shoulder and a goofy grin plastered across his face, was none other than Barnyard Dawg. Yes, the very same Barnyard Dawg from the Foghorn Leghorn cartoons, the one who had spent countless episodes trying to outsmart that loud-mouthed rooster. He looked just as I remembered him, his floppy ears, droopy eyes, and that unmistakable charm that made him a beloved character.
"Howdy, partner,"
he exclaimed, his voice a delightful mix of southern drawl and playful mischief.
"I am here for a sleepover."
I stood there for a moment, my mind racing. Barnyard Dawg at my door. It was surreal, to say the least. I had grown up watching him on television, laughing at his antics as he tried to outwit Foghorn Leghorn. The idea that he was now standing in front of me, backpack and all, was both amusing and oddly heartwarming.
Ah, sure. Come in.
I finally managed to say, stepping aside to let him in. As he shuffled past me, I couldn't help but notice the way his tail wagged with excitement. It was as if he had just won the lottery, and honestly, I felt a bit like I had too. After all, how many people could say they had a cartoon character as a guest? Once inside, Barnyard Dawg plopped his backpack down on the floor with a thud.
"I brought my favorite stuff,"
he said, unzipping the bag with a flourish. Out came an assortment of items that made me chuckle. A rubber chicken, a squeaky toy, and a few dog treats that looked suspiciously like they had been plucked from the bottom of a bargain bin.
Wow. You really came prepared.
I laughed, shaking my head.
So, what do you want to do first?
He scratched his chin thoughtfully, his floppy ears flopping with the motion.
"Well, I reckon we ought to get to know each other a bit better. You know, swap stories, reminisce about the good old days, and all that jazz."
I settled back into my armchair, and Barnyard Dawg plopped down on the couch.
"So what's your story, partner?"
he asked, as his eyes sparkled with curiosity. I took a deep breath, diving into the tale of my life, how I had grown up in a small town, the adventures I had embarked on, and the dreams I still held close to my heart. I spoke of my love for books, my fascination with the world, and how I had always found comfort in the stories that unfolded on the pages. Barnyard Dawg listened intently, nodding along as I spoke.
"Sounds like you had quite the ride, my friend, but lemme tell ya, it not all sunshine and rainbows for old Dawg here either. I have had my fair share of tussles with that Foghorn Leghorn, and I will tell ya that rooster can be a real big handful."
I chuckled, imagining the antics he must have endured.
"I have done some wild things,"
he exclaimed.
"One time, I dressed up as a chicken myself, thinking I could fool him. But instead, I ended up in a chicken coop, surrounded by real chickens. You should have seen the look on his face when he realized I was just a dog in a chicken costume."
We both burst into laughter, the kind that makes your sides ache and your eyes water. It was refreshing to share these moments with someone who understood the absurdity of life, even if he was a cartoon character. As the evening wore on, we swapped more stories, his tales of mischief and my tales of mundane life, each one more ridiculous than the last. Eventually, the aroma of dinner wafted through the air, reminding me that I had yet to eat.
How about we grab some dinner?
I suggested, rising from my chair.
Sounds good to me. What's on the menu?
I led him to the kitchen, where I had prepared a simple meal of pasta and marinara sauce. As I dished out my portion, I glanced over at him, wondering what he would eat. To my surprise, he pulled out a plate from his backpack, and with a flourish, he revealed a can of dog food.
Ah, the finest cuisine,
he declared, opening the can with a satisfying pop. I couldn't help but chuckle at the sight of him, pouring the dog food onto the plate, the sloshy sound echoing in the kitchen.
Bon appetit,
he said, giving a mock bow before digging into his meal with gusto. I watched, amused, as he savored each bite, his tail wagging furiously.
You know, this ain't half bad. You should try it sometime.
I shook my head, laughing.
I think I'll stick to my pasta, but thanks for the offer though.
As we ate, we continued our banter, sharing more stories and jokes. The atmosphere was light and filled with laughter, a delightful contrast to the usual quiet of my evenings. It was refreshing to have someone, albeit a cartoon dog, who could bring such joy and humor into my life. After dinner, we moved to the living room, where I suggested we watch some television. Barnyard Dawg's eyes lit up at the idea.
Hey partner, have you got any of those classic cartoons I used to be in?
He asked, his voice filled with nostalgia. I rummaged through my collection of DVDs and found a few episodes of Foghorn Leghorn. As I popped one into the player, Barnyard Dawg settled in beside me, his eyes glued to the screen. Watching him react to his own antics was a joy in itself. He laughed at his own mischief, pointed out moments he was particularly proud of, and even groaned at some of the sillier gags.
I remember that one. I had him right where I wanted him,
he exclaimed, slapping his knee in delight.
But that rooster always finds a way to wriggle out of trouble.
The evening wore on, filled with laughter and the warmth of companionship. As the credits rolled on the last episode, I glanced at the clock and realized it was getting late.
I guess it's time for bed,
I said reluctantly. Barnyard Dawg yawned, stretching his paws.
You're right, partner. A good night's sleep is just what we need for more shenanigans tomorrow.
And with that, Dawg and I went upstairs to my bedroom. As the evening settled into a cozy hush, the warmth of laughter and shared stories lingered in the air like the fading notes of a sweet melody. Barnyard Dawg and I climbed into my bed, the soft sheets enveloping us in a comforting embrace. The room was dimly lit, the only illumination coming from the faint glow of the street light outside, casting playful shadows on the walls.
Good night, partner,
Barnyard Dawg said with a gentle rumble, filled with the kind of warmth that only comes from a day well spent.
Good night, dog,
I replied back, as I turned off the bedside lamp, plunging the room into a soft darkness, and nestled into the pillows, my mind still buzzing with the joy of our unexpected friendship. Little did I know, however, that the night was far from over. As I drifted into a peaceful slumber, the rhythmic sound of my breathing filled the room, and I was blissfully unaware of the mischief that was about to unfold. Barnyard Dawg, with his floppy ears and mischievous spirit, lay still for a moment, pretending to be asleep. His eyes sparkled with a playful glint, as he carefully lifted his head and glanced at me, ensuring I was indeed lost in my dreams. Satisfied that I was in the depths of slumber, he quietly slipped out of bed, his paws making barely a sound against the wooden floor. With the stealth of a seasoned prankster, Dawg tiptoed over to his backpack, which lay open and inviting on the floor. He rummaged through it, his tail wagging with excitement as he pulled out a peculiar item. A foghorn Leghorn suit, crafted from the very feathers of the infamous rooster himself. The suit was a vibrant mix of whites and yellows, complete with a beak-like hood and exaggerated wings. It was a sight to behold, and Barnyard Dawg couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all.
"Now this here is gonna be a hoot,"
he said to himself. He approached me sleeping peacefully, as the suit clutched tightly in his paws, and with a mischievous glint in his eye, he began the delicate operation of dressing me up as Foghorn Leghorn. With careful precision, Dawg pulled down the zipper of the suit, revealing the fabric beneath. He struggled a bit, trying to maneuver the suit over my body without waking me.
"Now do not go stirring now, my partner,"
he muttered. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of wrestling with the suit, he managed to get it on me, zipping it back up with a triumphant grin. He stepped back, admiring his handiwork. There I laid, completely unaware, transformed into a comical version of Foghorn Leghorn, the suit snug against my body. Barnyard Dawg couldn't contain his glee. He climbed back into bed, snuggling under the covers beside me, his heart racing with the thrill of the prank he had just pulled. As he settled in, he glanced over at me, a twinkle in his eye.
"Tomorrow is going to be a real barn burner,"
he whispered, giving me a wink as he closed his eyes, ready for sleep. As the night deepened, something magical began to happen. The fabric of the foghorn suit started to shimmer, glowing softly in the darkness. It was as if the essence of Foghorn Leghorn himself was merging with my very being. I remained blissfully unaware, lost in dreams of cartoonish adventures and whimsical landscapes. The transformation was gradual, a gentle melding of my identity with that of the larger-than-life rooster. I could feel a warmth spreading through me, a sense of mischief and playfulness awakening within. It was as if Foghorn spirit was wrapping around my own, filling me with a sense of confidence and a desire for fun. In the depths of my slumber, I began to dream vividly. I found myself in a vibrant cartoon world, filled with exaggerated colors and whimsical characters. I was no longer just me, I was Foghorn Leghorn, strutting around with a newfound swagger. Barnyard Dawg, nestled comfortably beside me, was already dreaming of the pranks we would pull together. He envisioned us running amok, causing delightful chaos in the cartoon world, with Foghorn's antics leading the charge. The thought made him chuckle in his sleep, a sound that echoed softly in the room. As dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the room. I stirred slightly, feeling the remnants of the transformation still tingling within me. The world around me began to shift, the boundaries of reality blurring as I embraced my new identity. With a sudden burst of energy, I sat up in bed. I looked down at myself, and there it was, the unmistakable Foghorn Leghorn, complete with feathers and all. I could hardly believe my eyes.
I say, what in tarnation?"
I exclaimed. My voice boomed with that familiar rooster accent. Barnyard Dawg, still half asleep, blinked at me in surprise.
"Well, I'll be. You look just as perfect as I thought you would be,"
he exclaimed, as his tail wagged furiously.
"Now we're ready for a day of shenanigans, partner."
I couldn't help but laugh, the sound echoing with a playful resonance that felt entirely new.
"Let's get this show on the road,"
I declared, as my newfound confidence surged through me. The day ahead promised to be filled with laughter, pranks, and the kind of mischief that only a cartoon character could conjure. With Barnyard Dawg by my side, I felt ready to take on the world, one hilarious escapade at a time. The sun rose higher, illuminating our path as we prepared to step into a day that would be anything but ordinary.